fine motor problem. And the OTs will test them and say their fine motor skills are actually quite good. And you're like, how can that be? He's breaking his pencil, he's warping it, he's like, scribbling it. It comes to what it really boils down to is this neurological feature and characteristic where they are so focused on that letter formation and how perfect is that, and it's never going to be perfect enough in their mind, all right, that they're not able to express their thoughts. They're focused on that piece. And so when I have students, if that's what's going on, I'm like, take away the stress for writing, people. Give them access to different modes of technology so they can show us what they know. Take away that stressor right there. And many of these students do have a fear of failure. My smartest students have fear of failure. And this is where teachers are like, oh, come on, he can do grade level work, 3 grade levels above this, but now he's refusing to do math at his grade level. But I know he can do it 3 grade levels above. So he's just, he's just choosing not to do his work. He's being non-compliant. I have students that get so fearful they're going to make a mistake, they shut down. Why? Because that's the easiest way to avoid failing, right? You don't do it, you do not have to worry about failing. And with those students, we have to back way up and make their work absolutely fail-proof, and then gradually start building that difficulty from there. Because if I don't go back to that level and start building up, they're going to continue to sit there and do nothing. Addressing behaviors, PBIS. Are you guys a PBIS district, or are you guys familiar? Okay. So you guys, this is not new stuff. So many districts are using PBIS now. In the field of autism, we've been doing this forever because we've learned that if you truly want to change a behavior, you have to prevent it from occurring. All right, the proactive, positive behavioral interventions and supports prevent behaviors from occurring, and that's what changes it. Reactive manages that behavior for the moment. And by reactive, I mean the behavior happens and we react to it. All right, so back with Nick, he would run away at recess when it was time to line up. So the reaction was going to be he was going to miss the next recess. All right, so he wasn't going to run away if he was missing recess. All right, but the next time he went out on the playground, correct, he was going to run away. So it was managing it for the moment, but it was not going to change. With Corbin, getting that bus suspension, well, he wasn't going to be walking slow in front of the bus because he wasn't going to be riding the bus, but the next time he rode the bus, that behavior was going to come back again. And with our students with ASD, PBIS is very important. And I have a list here of a number of positive behavioral interventions and supports that I am always looking at, making sure that we have in place for our students with ASD. And these are something for you all as educational teams to consider. Do we have visual supports in place so that they understand us? There are simple changes you can make in an environment so that they more readily understand the hallway, where they're supposed to stand, where their locker or where their cubby is, in the classroom, in the gym. We can make very simple environmental accommodations. Are they exhibiting tip of the iceberg behaviors? Because they're trying to tell us something, and they're doing it behaviorally, so we need to teach them a more appropriate way to do that. Are they exhibiting tip of the iceberg behavior because they have sensory processing differences? Can we make some accommodations for that? Do we need to teach them self-regulation skills like Alex? And absolutely that direct social skills instruction. So these are all things that I'm looking at for my students to make sure, are we covering our bases here? Do we have these things in place to prevent behaviors from occurring? And I'll tell you, the reason why consequences are not that effective for students with ASD is very neurological. Because neurologically, they do not draw relationships very well between events, between actions and behaviors. All right, it's not like they connect the dots real well. And when we give a student a consequence to a behavior, we are assuming they're making that connection. Why? Because the next time they're going to engage in that behavior, we're hoping they stop and not engage in that behavior and remember, remember last time when you did this, they made you miss recess, or they gave you a detention, or you got a suspension, and so I'm not, then the child would think, or the student, I'm not going to engage in that behavior. They're able to draw that relationship, and I'm telling you, neurologically, these students don't, and this is all age levels. One of my high school students, Troy, cognitively intact, he's in gen ed classrooms, highly verbal, He had a big problem in gym class when he did not win or his team didn't win. And again, it related to that social cognition. And Troy would start swearing, he'd start throwing materials, and if he didn't settle down, they'd send him down to the office. If he didn't settle down in the office and he continued, to escalate, they'd sometimes send him home. It's like an out-of-school suspension for the day. Here's what would happen when Troy would go home. He would call the school 25 to 30 times over the course of the rest of that school day. And he would say, okay, I want to clarify this. I do get to come to school tomorrow, correct? But I do not get to come to school anymore the rest of this day. So, the principal's telling me this, and he's like, we had to ixnay this. And I'm like, yeah, because it wasn't working. And the principal said, well, yeah, I guess so. He said, but more importantly, I was losing money. And I'm like, looking at the principal, he said, I was money factoring into this. He said, none of my secretaries were getting an ounce of work done. He said, because they're taking Troy's calls all day. And he said, so it's disrupting, any work that anybody's able to do. And I'm thinking, okay, and are you all not making the connection? He is not making the connection between his behaviors and then subsequently being sent home. How did we fix that? We started giving him direct instruction when he was calm through a curriculum to teach him those social cognition perspective taking skills. And I knew it was not going to be a quick fix. It wasn't like me writing a little story. Here, read this story and you're going to get it. No, it was like instruction, weekly instruction, multiple times a week. And I told the Fayette teacher, in the meantime, put Troy in a neutral role. I don't want to pull him out of your class, but if there's a competitive activity, let him be the scorekeeper, the timekeeper, or what Troy really loved to be, the referee, all right? I said, so he's not in the head-to-head competition because he can't handle it. He does not have the social skills to handle it. And so the next school year, Troy had learned some social cognition perspective taking skills and was better equipped at handling competitive activities. But it took a long time, people. Don't want you to think this is a quick fix. And also, going back to that foreign country that you all are in where you don't speak the language, all right, and should you be punished, though, for not following the directives that people are telling you to do in that language that you don't speak? I mean, would you think that's fair if somebody's punishing you? No. But I find so often with my students with ASD, they are getting punished for skills that we have failed to teach them. And we don't do that with our students academically. If a student can't read, we don't say, you're getting detention because you cannot read, all right? No, we teach them to read. But I find many of my students struggle with social relation skills, self-regulation skills, perspective-taking skills, even basic communication skills, and we're punishing them because they're exhibiting these behaviors that relate to these skill deficits that they have. So it's so important to consider those tip of the iceberg behaviors, where they're coming from, and what do we need to teach them. That's fair. This is not fair. So, this is like a favorite quote that I love, and I said it before. If you keep doing the same thing and the behavior does not change, absolutely, who is the slow learner there? And I'm telling you, it's not the child. So we need to reframe our thinking. Prevention is key. Removing them is not going to solve your problems, people. You're just managing it for the moment. Velcroing an adult is not going to be the magic wand answer either. I see that. Okay, we're going to just give them more adult support. Well, that adult support that's now Velcro to them does not have these magic powers, all of a sudden to make this stuff disappear. They can certainly start teaching the child some of the skills and using some of those PBIS. That would be an appropriate use, but just simply Velcroing a person isn't going to fix it, and absolutely punishing them is not the answer. You do have to front load, and this is where teachers say to me, we don't have time. And I'm like, I get it. Nobody's got time. But if as a team, you put the time into front loading, putting these PBIS strategies in place, it's going to save you time in the long run. I can guarantee this, because you spend a lot of time, people, with these students reacting and dealing with the aftermath. I've had students, it wipes out the whole rest of the day for everybody, all right? And I'm thinking, my gosh, if we could have put some time into putting this strategy in place and teaching them how to use this, we wouldn't have the whole afternoon now, wiped out as a result. Set them up for success and teach them skills. And always keep in mind, and this is hard for some folks to understand, but inconsistency is the most consistent characteristic of autism spectrum disorder. You're going to see inconsistency in your students' performance. I don't care how verbal they are, how intelligent they are. And the reason for this is because autism is a neurological processing disorder. And how well they can process at any given time can vary greatly. But I don't want you to think because their performance was really good at this given time, and now the next time it's not very good, people automatically jump to the conclusion of, well, I know they can do this. Because yesterday, they came in the school building and had no problem getting right down to their locker. Nobody had to hardly give them any support. They went right into math class, sat down, did 25 math problems. So you know what? We know they can do this. We know. Today they come in here and now they're just choosing not to. We had to give them so much support to get them from the door of the school to their locker, and then it was a big deal just getting them in math, and my gosh, we were lucky to get 5 math problems done. And this is where people say, so today they're playing us. They are just playing us big time because we know what they have the ability to do. What you have to understand is these students are constantly balancing a tray. And there is all different size glasses of water on that tray at any given time. So maybe yesterday, though, when they came to school, when they woke up in the morning, their favorite t-shirt that they wear every day was there, ready to roll. They could put it on. That did not add much to their tray because their favorite t-shirt was there. They were able to eat what they ate for breakfast every day. The bus driver took the right route to school. So that when they came into school that morning, there wasn't a lot on their tray that they were balancing. So they were able to neurologically process a lot better. They could handle coming in with 150 other students and get right to their locker. They could easily handle getting into that math class, and they could handle that 25 math problems. Today they come in, all right, and maybe that favorite t-shirt, mom has it in the wash, and maybe their cereal, their brother finished it all, and that bus driver took a different route to school. So they're coming in your doors, and you don't even know what all is already loaded up on that tray. So walking down that hallway with 150 other kids, oh my gosh, that is going to add, that might even dump that tray, as a matter of fact. So that's what I mean, and this can be throughout their day. But if you put in place those PBIS strategies that I had listed there, you have those in place as preventive, proactive strategies, you're going to be clearing the tray for these students. That's what keeps their tray cleared. But you will see this inconsistency. Therefore, our consistency is critical. Because if we're inconsistent, that's going to confuse them even more. And I've seen this where some people, we put in place some of those PBIS strategies, but they're not used consistently. Some people use them, some people don't. People pick and choose. What days are we going to use this? What days are we not? How confusing must that be for these students? Not knowing, is this person going to use this or not? Or today, do I get this? I have some students where we put in a basic visual support like a schedule. But the schedule is not available to them every day. And I said, well, why not? Well, because they are having a good day today. We don't think they need it. People, would you want somebody to make that decision for you every morning? Like, do you want your spouse to say, you look like you're having a good day today? You don't need your schedule because you look like you're having a really good day. All right, that would be, this is my visual support, is my smartphone. I've got to-do lists. Everything's on here. But my husband does not make the decision for me based on how good of a day I'm having, whether or not I get my visual support. I get this every darn day, people, every day. And I do well because I have my calendar, my planner, my to-do lists. But this happens oftentimes with these students where these adults are making these decisions. Consistency is critical. You guys, last 10, 15 minutes here, a few general tips, all right? Number one, use visual information to communicate to them, all right? Constantly be thinking, how can I incorporate visual? Because it's static. It's there as long as they need to process. How can I incorporate visual information? So when I put visual information into the environment for students or give it to them specifically, it can look like a lot of different things. It might be as simple as taping a square off in the hallway to define their cubby area. Because I have students, this time of year in the winter with all that winter outerwear, they're out in the hallway and they're like running up and down the hallway. And we want them to stay like right in front of their locker, to get on their stuff. Well, that hallway's been one big wide open area. So maybe if we taped off a boundary and that they know this is where they put all this stuff on or where they take it all off, it keeps them better contained in this big, wide open area. And I use this colored floor tape, 5 BIA teachers have this by the boatload, all different widths, all different colors. It's great because it doesn't peel off the floor when you peel it off. So this student scooted their chair all over the classroom, all right? We just taped off a boundary for their chair. I had another student that was constantly up wandering around the classroom all the time while the teacher was instructing. And it was very distracting to the teacher and to the other students. So we took this tape and taped off an area around his desk and chair, and we said, you can stand up and move, but you gotta stay, like within your boundary. Greatly reduced his, out of seat behaviors. This teacher would do a small group on the floor in her classroom, and it took another adult to keep the student with autism and some of the other students corralled, because they'd wander off. Again, she just took that tape and taped off an area, and it defined, this is where I need to be. And a lot of times people think this tape is, people think, how is that going to work? Because they can step right over that tape. And that's true, they can, because it's not a force shield. It's not like they hit the tape and they bounce back. But I'm telling you people, and I've heard this with all students, I only work with students with ASD, but I know you all work with all different kinds of students. I've heard this works for all students. You give them, you set up boundaries, you define areas using this tape, and the students are like, okay, I'm not supposed to go beyond this. I've had teachers that have used it to segment off their desk area, all right? So don't think this is kind of like a silly idea, because I've seen it work time and again. Where to line up? I have so many students, really verbal students, that get in lots of trouble with lining up. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest reasons why it relates so much to their autism, every time we have students line up, it's unpredictable where they're going to be in that line, all right? Unless they're line leader, or we have assigned places in line, which very few teachers have, the whole line has an assigned, we're just line up. I have students that have heightened anxiety with lining up because they're always going to be in a different spot. So I have students that are in and out of line, they're shoving kids, they're all over, they're getting in trouble. And I'm like, the easiest solution to this is, first of all, assign them a place in line. And you don't have to give them a visual if they understand the ordinal concept of, you're just going to be second in line, all right? And they can count off and be second in line. One of my teachers had a brilliant idea where she just took a box, put numbers 1 through 10 in the box, and the student, first thing Monday morning, pulls out a number. And if he pulls out a number 7, he's going to be 7th in line that entire week for lining up. Anytime, going to gym, coming in from recess. And it has greatly reduced his behaviors. He counts off 7 and gets right where he needs to be. And the nice thing is she's working on flexibility, because next Monday he's going to pull out another number. He's going to be a different place in line. Some of my students, though, cognitively aren't going to understand that. So we might need to give them a visual to denote, here's where you need to be to line up, all right? For this student, a square worked really good. His teacher initially had an X. The X didn't work so well. Why? He had difficulty staying on top of a visual. He needed to stay within a boundary. So she just made a simple change, and he'd stay right inside that. So again, lining up is a big one. I would say most of my students have individual schedules, not just the schedule that's on the wall that a lot of elementary teachers have, their own schedule that reflects their information, whether they have speech, whether they have OT, self-regulation breaks. This is where we manage their high interest. We put it right into their schedule. All of that stuff is not on the teacher's schedule. And secondly, I want my students interacting with their schedule. Immediately upon conclusion of an activity, they're checking it off, moving it to an all done, because that's what shifts their attention. I have finished this, and what's coming up next? And this is just an example. Schedules can look like anything. My favorite is the lower left. This was a girl who hated her schedule. It was just like a written schedule. She hated it, but she needed a schedule. So the teacher incorporated it into a high interest. This little girl loved clothes and purses, so the teacher bought a purse like at Goodwill, and she and Addie decorated it. And then Addie's schedule is Velcroed on the outside of this purse. This purse now goes everywhere with Addie. I mean, it's out, she puts it across her snowsuit. When she's all done, she pulls off that whatever scheduled activity, lifts up the purse, slam dunks it inside. All right, so they can look like lots of different things. This teacher had the brilliant idea of taking paint stirrer sticks, and putting schedules, her students' schedules on there. The students, when they were all done with an activity, would just flip it to, the all done to the back side. This is just an example of a written schedule, and they incorporated with this student's schedule also where he could write down homework assignments, because that planner, that little box, was just too small, and that was causing so much stress. So his schedule was just built right into where he had a bigger space to copy down if there was an assignment. This is an example of structuring up unstructured time. This student, there were 5 minutes between the end of math and lunch. And so you guys know what that's like. Everybody's bustling around, putting things away, washing hands, getting their lunch cards, whatever. And this student, he would escalate. He'd start like running around the classroom, laughing hysterically, and it was very disruptive. So what we realized, this downtime, this unstructured time was very unpredictable for him. So we gave him a little visual checklist. And this brought him right down to what exactly he needed to do during that unstructured time. Those of you that have to wear or that put like your ID on a lanyard or keys or whatever, add visuals onto there. Things that you feel like you're saying all the time, make a visual to reflect that so that you can reduce your talking or support your talking with a visual. First, then, is a visual strategy I use all the time with my students, all age levels. Sometimes I use it to teach them what a schedule is all about, and more often I use it in addition to their schedule. Because sometimes my students get so focused on something that I need to get them to focus on, okay, yeah, that's going to happen, but first we need to do this. So like in this example, Griffin had a written schedule. And after journal, he always got a break, always, because journal was so stressful for him. But on this day, he's like just I need a break. And the teacher kept saying, well, you're going to get one, after journal. See, it's right here on your schedule. At that point, his written list schedule was like, too much. So like I just took a piece of paper and real quick, I wrote first journal, then break. It's like I broke it down into these two simple components. I gave it to Griffin, and I said to the teacher, let's back away. Because she was in a big power struggle with him. They were going round and round. And I'm telling you, you will never, ever win a power struggle with one of these rigid, inflexible thinkers. They are neurologically wired to be rigid and flexible. We're not. So I said, walk away. He's got a visual now. Griffin started working on his journal. Halfway through, he stopped. I came over and tapped it just to draw his attention back to it, but I didn't say, get back on your journal. All right, I didn't say a word. I just drew his attention to the visual, and I kept on moving. He finished journal, and he moved on to his break. When you put in place these visual supports, it will pull you out of a power struggle. All right, and that's the best thing about these visuals, because you're not going to win power struggles. The visual support does not allow them to engage in a power struggle because the piece of paper does not argue back with them, okay, like we do. All right, so it's hard to argue with a visual support. I use the first then also to break down scheduled activities. So maybe it says math on their schedule, but I have students that are like, they're thinking math is going to last forever, there's no end in sight. So maybe we take a first then to break down math. And it could be like, I might have 3 things under there. It might be math, we're going to do this, then we're going to do math flashcards, then we're going to do a math game. Then they get the iPad. And I have some students, I might even break down this even further. It might be math, page 62, 1 to 5, then get a drink. And then I reload it. Math, page 62, problems 6 through 10. Then, take a walk, whatever. But I might have to break it down even more so, a scheduled activity. But again, the examples that I'm showing you are visual. We're not doing this auditorily, we're doing this visually. Those students that will not let go of something, they are talking, and you keep saying, we'll talk about this later, give them a visual. This is a 2-sided little stop sign that I have teachers give my elementary students that say, stop, talk about this later, and then let them know when they can talk about it. And if it's, 9 o'clock in the morning, don't make it 3:30 in the afternoon, or make it reasonable. And middle school, high school teachers, I've seen so many of my verbal middle school, high school students monopolize entire classes because they can't stop talking about something. And the middle school, high school teacher will, try to be nice and say, we'll talk about this later. We'll talk about this at the end of class. You know, you have to be sometimes real direct with these students. Like you beat around the bush, they're not going to pick up on what you're hinting at. But I find giving them a stick-em note that you can just say, stop, we'll talk about it at, 8:53, 2 minutes before the bell rings. It allows them to set it aside because they've got that visual there as a constant reminder. If they don't have this visual here, they're going to keep bringing up whatever it is they are stuck on. Visual directions, for academics. I have a 5th grade gen ed teacher. She is the master at using this dry erase board. Any directive she gives the class, she's writing it down on the dry erase board and she gives it to the student with Karen, the student with ASD. And one day I'm praising her up one side, down the other. She goes, are you kidding me? She said, this has made my life so much easier. She said, otherwise, I'd be over here saying 20 times to him, take out your journal, take out your journal, take out your journal. She said, I would spend so much time over here. She said, it's not that he doesn't have the skill. She said, he just needed this information. She said, for as long as, in a visual format, as long as he needed to process. Same thing for the middle school, high school students. I was in a high school science class and the teacher said, okay, we've got 30 minutes, everyone to study for the test we have next week. And this student was like looking around, and I said to that teacher, can you just put in a stick-em note, checklist manner, what he needs to do right now? Focus his attention for this science test. This is just an example. One of my high school students, he and his teachers would break down his assignments, whether it was a test or an assignment, what was coming up, what he needed to do, what day, and very importantly, how long it should take him to do it. He would think to read chapter 4, he would take 4 hours to do it. And the teacher's like, nope, this is how long, but she would put it in a visual format. She would do this with him. This is an example of a high school student's schedule. A high school student that's in gen ed full time. Check in with a special ed, check out. But he needed, he would never get his homework assignments written down. So the special ed teacher's calling everybody. He never got the materials home that he needed. And so the special ed teacher would load his backpack. So we created a schedule for him that had all of his classes, his gen ed classes. The second column were all things that we wanted him to work on, things that he could do. We wanted them to generalize to these gen ed classrooms. The next 2 sections where it said assignments and materials, those were blank. And there were nice big spaces. This is where he would copy down from the board, like chemistry, first hour, what was the assignment. And then his gen ed teachers, per me having a meeting with them and asking them, would they also put not only the assignment for first hour, but draw a slash and put down what materials the students need. So I wanted Mitch, at the end of the day, to be able to load his own backpack from looking at that materials list. So this was just an example of a student schedule. You guys, these timers, you might have seen these. Special ed folks use these a lot. These are they're cheap and they break easy, but they're best for teaching passing of time. Digital, and my students with ASD neurologically don't understand passing of time. They don't have a clue what 10 minutes looks like, feels like, but when you use this timer, the red chunk, when you pull the lever over to the 10, there's a red chunk appears that gradually disappears as time progresses. A lot of teachers use digital timers, and that doesn't teach, for my students, passing of time. If they have 10 minutes to do something and you use the digital timer, it's going 9:59, 9:58. You're like, what the heck do those numbers mean? Then it gets down to 2 minutes, and we're like, hurry up, your time's almost up. If they can see visually that red, getting smaller and smaller, that's giving them a better understanding of passing of time. Gen ed teachers, they have big ones of these, medium-sized, little desktop. I have some high school students that use the watches for managing passing periods. So lots of different ways to utilize it. They have apps as well. For those students that won't let go, that can't have to do things to completion, we give them a visual finish later folder. Put your spelling in here. We're going to come back to it. We have to do math now. It's like help them let go of it. And we might even put finish later work time on their schedule. High school teachers, for those long-term assignments, visually break it down for them, all right? What they need to do each week, how long it should take them. And then this is just using a visual 5-point scale. I actually see this in a lot of schools now, working on vocal volume. All right, I see this in a lot of classrooms. What's a 1? What does a 5 look like? And teachers, I'm going to wrap up here because I know we are like running out of time. When it comes to talking with these students, less is more. All right, as typical speakers, if someone doesn't understand us, our natural inclination is to talk more because you think the more you talk, the more they're going to get. With students with ASD, it has the opposite effect. The more you talk,